Today we will talk about XRP, XLM, and how they continue to connect in a number of combinations that make it seem as if Stellar and Ripple are at the core of the new financial infrastructure. And of course, there is a lot of headline news right now about today, June 9th, 2024, and how it is the end of the Petrodollar. And it is interesting because it has a lot of conspiracies out there. However, it seems to be coming more and more true. And I have talked about this a few times in particular in the past related to what is called Project Sandman. And I do have a couple of older things on that if you are interested. Here it is talking about how people from 69 countries met in August of this past year in 2023. And if you cut down 69 into 6 and 9, then that is an interesting correlation to June 9th as well. So Russia says that BRICS must be prepared for the collapse of the US dollar. And here it is in an interesting statement regarding the announcement of a new payment system that does not rely on the USD or on SWIFT itself. And it was highly contingent upon Saudi Arabia getting into BRICS and how trade of oil and gas not being dependent on the USD will be a paradigm shift in the global economy.
Including within BRICS, we're working on shaping an independent payment system free from political pressure, abuse, and external sanctional interference. In this regard, I'd like to remind you that this year, BRICS was joined by new participants, that is, Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Ethiopia. With this, the share of our association in global GDP has reached 36%. And the population of the planet has reached 45%. And BRICS has tremendous potential for joining of new participants, and such drive of stakeholders from different continents can only be welcomed by us, and we'll support it.
Here is a new announcement that India and Nigeria finalized a partnership that does not rely on the USD. And as far as the US goes, that's where a lot of things in the global economy come back to at this point. So we've got that the FDIC reported that 63 banks are at risk of becoming insolvent and collapsing. It will make 2008 look small in comparison. A little bit more on the US, which ties into the PIT Act that I have talked about, and how the US government is specifically pointing to the ongoing lawsuit against Ripple and XRP as an example of how things have to change.
A report by Oliver Wyman found that in 2020, it's $120 billion to move $23 trillion across borders, and that a multi-currency CBDC could cut costs by 80%. Down to about $20 billion.
So when anyone talks about an MCBDC, that sounds a lot like Project M-Bridge, and I have talked about it a lot and how it connects into XRP, XDC, Quant, and even Velo. But it appears as if XRP is catching a lot of the attention around BRICS right now. And I'm taking this with a grain of salt, but it says that XRP is reportedly under consideration in the payment scheme. I have talked about how Ripple has been heavily involved in Russia, as well as just about every other BRICS country at this point.
24. Saudi Arabia is expected to announce that it will cease all oil sales in US dollars, marking the end of the 50-year Petrodollar Pact signed on June 6, 1974, which expires on June 9, 2024. What does it mean for the United States and the US dollar? The decision not to renew this pact stems from Saudi Arabia's recent invitation to BRICS and its move towards the dollarization. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has informed the Saudi government that the country will no longer accept the US dollars for oil transactions. This shift includes considerations to accept other currencies, such as the Chinese yuan, for oil sales, as reported by the Wall Street Journal on March 15, 2022.
And of course, when we talk about BRICS and how it could create an economic infrastructure that would compete with, if not surpass, the existing model that relies on USD, a new financial infrastructure would probably have to rely on the value of commodities such as oil and gas, gold, and silver. And just as all of this is happening, the BIS rolled out Project Rialto, which is a new FX form that is trying to improve FX settlement in instant cross-border payments. It will use wholesale CBDCs as the asset. And it also calls out Citibank, JPM, and SBI, who all have ties into Ripple and XRP.
Amazing ecosystem worldwide, and it takes it very seriously that Dubai is actually now at the center of everything that Ripple is doing as well, whether it is locally, regionally, or even internationally. And Ripple swell being in the UAE is a great testament to that.
It is not a coincidence that Ripple has been concentrating on the Middle East and particularly the UAE and Dubai that has tons and tons of oil and gas trade. And to connect into mBridge even more, here is a picture of, can't pronounce that, who is head of the BIS Innovation Hub in Hong Kong, and James Wallace, who is a VP at Ripple X, who concentrates on central bank engagements and CBDCs, which Hong Kong is one of the countries involved in mBridge. To talk about Stellar and XLM a bit more, here is an IMF paper that talks about Ripple's IOP and Stellar's compliance protocol as DLT solutions for facilitating compliance crypto asset transfers. And it specifically calls out Stellar and Ripple right here. And it also talks about Thailand and HKMA, which is the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. And it is talking about mBridge that involves China and Saudi Arabia too. And once again, it calls out JPM and Citibank here. In order to wrap this all up and to connect it into the more conspiratorial part of it I was talking about at the start, here is the whole high-level tinfoil part of the possible impacts of the petrodollar agreement expiring.
Hey, Mel. I know you're super busy with everything that you're doing in your life, but I have a piece of intel I wanted to share with you because I know you have a great reach of people, and being the legend that you are, you can get this information out there. There are a lot of folks talking about a black swan event, something that nobody sees coming. And what's interesting is that this thing that I'm going to share with you, this piece of intel, is huge, and no one, and I mean no one, is talking about this. Back in 1957, the United States and the Federal Reserve approached Saudi Arabia and offered military support, protection, as well as weaponry if they would use the United States dollar for all sales of Saudi oil. This, of course, expanded and gave the USD great privilege and clout, and even more dominance. Well, June 9th, a few weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now, that contract expires. It was for 70 years. It's over, 70-something years, whatever it was. Comes to an end, and Saudi Arabia, the prince, has already notified everyone that it will not be renewed. So they will no longer be selling oil with USD or even accepting USD. So that's a really, really big deal because that's the only thing propping up the dollar is the fact that it's still connected to Saudi oil. But that comes to an end on June 9th. And that's all I know. I'm not an expert on it, but that's a piece of intel that I was given today. So, you do whatever you want to do with that, okay?